Has T20 destroyed the game of cricket that we all love? It's a great question to discuss. And a lot of people are divided on the question. Some people believe that T20 is the best thing since sliced bread. And people, on the other hand, believe it's the worst thing to happen to the game of cricket. It's even worse than the match-fixing scandals that we had in the 90s. It's even worse than the current state of Pakistan cricket. And these people believe the game of cricket will be better off by getting rid of T20 and focusing on other formats like Test match cricket and ODI. But where do I stand on this? What do I believe? Do I believe it has negatively or positively impacted the game of cricket? I'm kind of neutral, slightly towards the negative, you can say, but I think it's done both. It has positively impacted the game and has also negatively impacted the game. But before I get into my points that touch on both sides, that touch on both the positive and negative sides of T20, there might be some people who click on this video not knowing what T20 cricket is. And to all those people, T20 is a shortened format game of cricket which is played over 20 overs. As the name suggests, T20. So you can imagine two teams, two oppositions, two starting 11s. Before the game starts, the captains come up for a coin toss. The umpire throws the coin. One of the captain decides heads or tails. He wins. He elects to bat. Him and his team will have a chance to bat for 20 overs and set the highest possible total they can. While the other team, the other captain that lost the coin toss, him and his team will have a chance to bowl out the other team in the lowest possible total. Because when that inning comes to an end, after 20 overs, or the other team losing all their wickets, the opposition will have a chance to chase down the total that the other team put up and hopefully win the match in 20 overs. But why have I come to a conclusion that has slightly negatively impacted the game of cricket? And what are these positive and negative points that I believe T20 has brought to the game of cricket? I'm going to start off with the positive impact that T20 has had on the game itself. So the first positive thing that T20 has brought is batsmen are not afraid of the bowlers. Batsmen are not afraid of the bowlers. What do I mean by that? I mean batsmen will take on any bowler they want. They're not afraid. It can be a fast bowler, it can be a spin bowler, it can be a medium bowler. The batsmen don't care. They will swing. They will hit shots that we have never seen before, or we can't even think about. Batsmen are not afraid. You can have a fast bowler bowl 150 kilometers. Batsmen will hit him for a reverse sweep. I never thought that would happen, ever. I was shocked when that happened against spin bowling. But fast bowling? That is amazing. You have batsmen hitting 360 shots against fast bowlers, against spin bowlers. They do not care. They're not afraid. A bowler can bowl his best ball. It can be a Yorker. Guess what? The batsmen hit it out of the park because they're just swinging. They don't care. It can be a fast bowler, and guess what? 360 sweep. Shots that we have never seen before. They're not afraid of the bowlers. Bowler can bowl his best ball. It can be an in-swing, it can be an out-swing, it can be a Yorker, it can be a bouncer. Batsmen do not care. They hit them out of the park for a six. That's what T20 has brought. The second positive that T20 has brought to the game is the money. Because T20 has brought in so many casual fans. Casual fans are your fans that don't watch cricket on a day-to-day basis. They don't watch cricket on a day-to-day basis. They find Test match cricket way too long. They find ODI boring. These casual fans are like your grandma or your grandparents or your sisters, your moms, who can actually sit and enjoy cricket because it's so short, because it's only 2 to 3 hours. They can sit and enjoy. Because there's so many casual fans that are brought in by T20, what that means is that there's an increase in TV revenue. There's an increase in ticket sales. Those ticket sales are increasing, TV revenue is going up. You know what that means? That's bringing in more money to cricket. Financially, it has saved cricket because of the $1 billion that's bringing in. Because of the $1 billion that it is bringing to the game. If you watch the stats, T20 was roughly averaging, IPL was averaging roughly 150 million viewerships for every single game. Cricket has never seen those numbers unless it's a World Cup. That happens every 4 years. So there are a lot of new fans that enjoy watching T20 cricket. And that leads to my third point. Because there's such an increase in money, the players are making $1 million a year because of T20. These players, they come from broke. They come from broke families. They come from being so poor. They come from so many poor countries like West Indies, Pakistan, India, where they probably didn't have enough food to eat on a daily, day-to-day basis. But due to their talent, due to their hard work, they make it to T20, they make it to things like IPL, Bash, and they can make millions of dollars a year. Generational wealth. That's another positive that's brought to the game of cricket. But the negative. Let's talk about the negatives of T20. The first and the major negative that I believe it's brought to the game is that it's made players forget the fundamentals of the game. What do I mean by that? Let's look at batsmen, for example. Batsmen's fundamentals are in their defense, are in their ability to stop the ball. I don't say this. I'm not some like cricket knowledge or like cricket mastermind. This is what the legends talk about. When you hear the legends like Kevin Peterson, Mahela Jayawardene, they talk about first thing that they did when they picked up a cricket bat was learn how to play defense. Play a proper defense. And defense doesn't just mean stopping the ball like tuk tuk tuk. No, defense means learning how your body works, learning about the proper head movement. Your head is the most important part of your body when it comes to batting because it dictates where the weight of your body goes and where the ball goes when you hit it. Because if I'm looking this way, guess what? The ball is going to go this way. If I'm looking this way, guess what? The ball is going to go this way. So that's why your head is the most important part of your batting. And they talk about how they learned about movement in their head. They talk about learning where to place their front foot and their back foot, about the weight distribution on both of the foots. And after they learned that, after they got a proper knowledge about the fundamentals, then whoever was teaching them, their coaches, their parents, their teachers, then allowed them to take those risky shots, those risky fours, those sixes, but those shots actually stopped being that risky because they were just using the fundamentals that they learned about their back, their front. They just put that, rather than stopping the ball, they changed it to an attack mode. So they literally used the same movement that they had when they were defending the ball. Now they were just shifting it to hitting the ball. But how has T20 impacted that, you may be thinking? Why is that negative? How has T20 made that negative? How is T20 making people lose fundamentals? Because you see players like Chris Gayle that are in T20 hitting sixes. You're like, I want to hit every ball for a six. So every kid watching T20 just wants to hit everything for a six. They come in this every time they go to bat. If you look at kids batting nowadays, between the ages of 10 to 18, there's no fundamentals. All they want to do is hit it out of the park for a six. Hit every ball for a boundary. I think there's some players that are a great example of this. Rishabh Pant is a great example of this. Hardik Pandya is a great example of this. They learned no fundamentals growing up. They're watching T20. You see them taking shots. Every shot they want to hit it for a boundary. And that was okay. Because when they started off, they got into T20. That's how their careers started off. They started off in T20 cricket. Because that's where they got selected. Rishabh Pant gets selected for Delhi. And he's in Delhi, he's in IPL, he's making a lot of money for his family, which is great. And he's putting up runs. And he's doing the same thing as I mentioned. He's trying to hit every ball for a boundary. He's hitting shots, again, that we've never seen before. Like, he's hitting one-handed sixes. This is wonderful. He's putting up runs. He's putting up massive runs in T20, in IPL. And he's standing out. Oh my God, this guy is wonderful. Rishabh Pant is the next best thing. And Team India watches him and they're like, oh, this guy's got great potential. Let's bring him on for a tour. He goes on to play for Team India. And he plays the same way that he did in IPL. No fundamentals, just trying to hit every ball for a boundary. Doesn't matter if it's a bouncer, doesn't matter if it's a yorker, doesn't matter if it's a wideout. Just hitting it for a boundary. Bam, bam, bam. And guess what? Those runs that he was making IPL, those like hundreds, 50s that he was making IPL, he goes on a drought for Team India. He's barely making any runs. He's getting out on ducks, he's getting out on one run, and he's getting out on stupid shots like his one-handed shots that are easily being picked off by fielders. He doesn't put up any runs, and Team India's like, yeah, you might have to drop him. And he gets dropped. But you know what he does? He matures, he gets better. He learns the game. He learns the proper fundamentals. And now, if you look at his batting now compared to the first time he came to Team India, this guy is 100 times better, 1,000 times better when he first started. He leaves balls, he ducks away, he understands what balls to hit, what balls not to hit. He understands the importance of taking singles, of rotating strike. He understands the game now. And he's probably one of the best batsmen that we have in Team India. But Rishabh Pant, nominally, a lot of players don't do that. A lot of players come from IPL, come from T20, make it to the national team. And guess what? They get dropped. And they play the same way. They don't mature. They don't learn the fundamentals. Like Suresh Raina. And guess what? They never make it back to the national team. And they're stuck in IPL. And they play the same stupid way of just trying to hit every ball for a boundary. And they don't make it. They have great potential. But they don't reach that potential because they fail to realize how to play the game properly. That's one negative. The second negative. Although it's great, the money that players are making, it's wonderful. I want them to make that money. I want them to make more money. I want them to be billionaires if they can. But what that does is that when you have that great kid, you have that great potential kid who's 18 and just coming in, and you're like, oh my God, this guy can be the next Sachin. He can be the next Mahela Jayawardene. He can be the next Kumar Sangakkara. And he gets that first paycheck from IPL, from Bash, from PSL. And he's like, oh my God, this is so much money. And I look at the national team and he gets 1/3 of that money that he makes in T20. And he's like, I don't want to play for the national team. I'm making no money. I'm not helping out my family. And he decides, screw the national team, and focuses all his attention on T20. Throws away the national team. Doesn't even want to get selected by them. Does not want to play test match or ODI. And just focuses on IPL, T20. And the national team loses out on players. And this is happening. This is happening in places like West Indies, Pakistan, where players are choosing to go play in IPL, go play in PSL, rather than play for their national team. And that is negatively impacting those countries. Pakistan cricket is absolutely in a shithole right now. West Indies cricket is garbage. And if you look at cricket in general, how many good teams we have nationally? About 4 good teams. About 4 good teams. We have Team India, New Zealand, England, and Australia. And everyone else is a tier below. They're all garbage. And if you look at those teams, Pakistan, West Indies, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, what are all those teams have in common? The best players are choosing to go out and play for IPL, go out and play for PSL, then play for their country. Another negative that I believe that T20 has brought to the game is that those casual fans aren't actually shifting to the other parts of the game. What do I mean by that? If you look at the numbers of Test match cricket and recall T20, there's a massive difference. The highest Test match that we had was this year, and you can say it's a lot to do with the lockdown and the coronavirus because we're all stuck inside and you want to watch something. Guess what? I'm just going to put on some cricket. And so the highest cricket match, the Test match we had was 100 mil. And for T20, on an average, is getting 150 million. That's a 50 million people difference. And that's the highest that's ever been for Test match cricket. And T20 is averaging roughly around 150 mil. So you can tell those people like your grandparents and all the other casual fans that don't watch cricket on a daily day-to basis aren't actually shifting to the other formats. ODI does well when it's World Cup. What only happens every 4 years. So like those numbers are very much bloated, are up because it's a one time in a lifetime essentially that you're watching. Last negative point that I have with T20 on the impact of the game of cricket is that bowling has just become an afterthought to the people of cricket. What do I mean by that? So when T20 came in, and why did it become so popular? Why were people so happy to watch T20? Was it because like the teams were only averaging 100 runs? Or was it because teams were putting up 200 runs? Because we were getting 36 runs in an over, 6 sixes essentially. We were getting people scoring the fastest century I've ever seen. It might have been that. It might have been that's why it was rising up in popularity. Because people were loving watching batsmen killing it. And people that run cricket, people that are CEOs of cricket, saw that and were like, oh, they really enjoy watching batsmen killing it. Why don't we change some of the rules in cricket that benefit the batsman over the bowler? If I were to point to a percentage right now about what the advantages are of the batsman and bowler, I'll go 85% of the advantage is to the batsman and 15% only is to the bowler. What do I mean by those percentages? I mean, I think bowler can only impact the game a little, whereas batsman can change the whole scenario of a game. Let's go back in time. If we go back in the 70s and 80s, and if you look at who had the more advantage, the batsman or the bowler? Back in the 70s and 80s, you can say 75% of the advantage was to the bowler, and about, give or take, 25 was to the batsman. Why is that? Because they didn't have proper equipment. You didn't have things like what do you call a helmet. You didn't have things like proper gloves, proper bat. And the bowler was allowed to bowl as many bouncers as he wants. And if you looked at the runs that were scored back then, it was roughly around 200, 130, give or take, was like the average score. So it's clear that all of the bowling had most of the advantage. And then you move to the 2000s. This is when you can say cricket was at its best, according to me, because there was an equal advantage to the bowler and batsman. It was 50-50. If you saw the scores, you saw like 250 runs was like the average back then. And someone scoring 300 was just like, wow, that's amazing. But back then, both the batsman and bowler could change the scenario of the game. A batsman could win a match and so could a bowler. But with T20 becoming such a big rise, and cricket seeing, oh, fans love watching batsmen killing it. Now what they have done is they have changed the rules so that's fully benefiting the batsman and not the bowler. You have things like power plays brought into the game where the bowler can only have certain fielders inside the circle and outside the circle. So meaning he can't put an attacking field when he's taking wickets. So he can only put certain fielders where he wants them. And that helps the batsman, because if you only have, give or take, 2 or 3 fielders on the outside, you can take easy singles and the bowler is going to get out of his sink. And if the bowler takes a hat trick, or if he takes 2 wickets, and he's like, oh, I'm going to bring a lot of the fielders in, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on the batsman because he's surrounded by fielders. He doesn't know what to do and he might get caught out. The bowler can't do that anymore because the rules don't allow him to do that. And that's negatively impacted the game. And if you look at the runs being scored now 300 is seen as a bad score. It's seen as that's way too low. You just score 200, you just score like 400 runs now to win a match in ODI. So like, that's why it's negatively impacted the game. And those are my points. That's why I think it's positive. Some of it's positive and some of it's negative. And that's why I'm leaning towards a little bit more towards the negative. But I think cricket needs to evolve and they need to find better ways of fixing the game, helping the bowlers out, find ways to help the bowlers out. Because bowlers, we don't have that many good bowlers left in the game. It's only a handful. Like, help them out. Give them proper rules. Give them certain power plays that helps them out as well versus batsmen. So we can have an equal game. So we can have the best game possible. Don't get rid of T20. T20 is great. It is great. It's not the best thing since sliced bread, but it is great. And see the ways you can improve it, and see how you can improve the next generation so the game keeps evolving and keeps getting better, better, better. I'd love to hear from you guys. Leave a comment down. Do you think it's positively or negatively impacting the game of cricket?